2 weeks after the battle at Centauri 6, the UNHS Mercy docked at Earth's main orbital station. Commander Martinez stood at her usual spot by the viewing window, watching as medical ships from across human space gathered around them. But these weren't the same old hospital ships she had known before. Each vessel now carried modified quantum imaging arrays developed from the Mercy's breakthrough. The Neldari had helped install the systems, working alongside human engineers to perfect the defensive technology that had saved their lives. "Commander," Lieutenant Baker called from behind her, "the Admiralty is ready for your report." Martinez nodded, turning away from the window. The ship's corridors were busy with activity as she walked to the conference room. Medical staff from a dozen worlds moved purposefully through the halls, including several Neldari in their new Earth Fleet medical uniforms. Dr. Wright and Officer Thompson were already in the conference room, along with Ilara and Engineer Rodriguez. The large screen showed a panel of admirals waiting to hear their story. "Commander Martinez," the lead admiral began, "your actions have changed the course of this war. The Kryvax Empire has requested peace talks for the first time since the conflict began." "Sir," Martinez couldn't hide her surprise. "The images of a hospital ship defending itself without causing harm have spread across their networks," another admiral explained. "It's caused quite a stir in their society. Apparently, the concept of winning without destruction has deeply affected their military philosophy." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "The medical technology we developed has applications beyond defense. We're already using modified versions of the quantum arrays to treat injuries we couldn't help before. And the Neldari's abilities have helped us understand biological systems in entirely new ways," Dr. Foster added from her position near the door. She had just arrived from the medical bay, where she was training new staff in the improved treatment methods. The admirals looked impressed. One of them, an older woman with gray hair, leaned forward. "Commander, we're restructuring the medical fleet based on your experience. Each hospital ship will now carry both human and Neldari crew members. You've shown us that healing and defense aren't separate things." Martinez felt pride as she looked at her crew. Officer Thompson, who had once been skeptical of having no weapons, now worked closely with the Neldari to develop new protective systems. Rodriguez had rebuilt their engines to work better with the new medical defense arrays. And Baker had created navigation techniques that helped hospital ships move safely through combat zones. "There's more," the lead admiral continued. "The Kryvax have released all Neldari medical personnel they had captured. They're asking for help building their own hospital ships. They want to learn our methods." Ilara's large eyes shimmered with emotion. "My people have dreamed of peace with the Kryvax for generations. We never imagined it would come through healing instead of fighting." The meeting continued as they discussed plans for the future. More hospital ships would be built, combining the best of human and Neldari medical knowledge. The quantum imaging arrays would be improved, helping doctors save more lives while protecting their ships from harm. Later, as Martinez walked through her ship, she stopped at the main medical bay. The room was filled with patients of different species, humans, Neldari, and even a few Kryvax who had been injured in the last battles of the war. All were being treated with equal care. She thought back to her initial disappointment at being assigned to a hospital ship. How wrong she had been. The Mercy hadn't just saved lives. It had changed how two civilizations thought about war and peace. "Commander," Dr. Wright called, interrupting her thoughts. "We're ready to begin the first joint human-Neldari medical training session. Would you like to say a few words?" Martinez smiled. This was her command now, not a warship, but something far more powerful. A ship that had proven that the strongest defense wasn't the ability to harm, but the dedication to heal. "Yes, Doctor," she said. "I would like that very much." The first real attack came without warning. The Kryvax ships opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up space around the UNHS Mercy. But they weren't aiming to destroy. They wanted to disable the hospital ship's engines and force it to surrender. "Shields holding at 60%, Rodriguez reported from engineering. "But we can't take too many more hits like that." In the medical bay, the Neldari worked with intense focus. Their hands were linked, forming circles around the modified scanning equipment. Dr. Wright moved between them, monitoring their vital signs as they connected with the ship's systems. "The quantum imaging arrays are at full power," he reported to the bridge. "The Neldari say they're ready." Commander Martinez watched the enemy ships on her screen. "How exactly will this work, Doctor?" "The arrays normally create detailed images of a patient's body," Wright explained. "But the Neldari have helped us tune them to a different frequency. Instead of looking inside bodies, we're going to look inside ships." Another blast rocked the Mercy. Thompson called out from her station, "Two ships moving to flank us. They're trying to cut off our escape route to the planet." "Now, Doctor," Martinez ordered. "Do it now." The modified medical equipment hummed to life. On the bridge, displays showed the quantum arrays powering up to levels they were never designed to reach. The Neldari's skin glowed with a pale blue light as they channeled their energy into the ship's systems. The first pulse was invisible to the human eye, but its effects were immediate. The nearest Kryvax ship suddenly went dark, its weapons powering down as the quantum beam disrupted its electrical systems. "It's working," Baker said with amazement. "Their power grid is shutting down. No permanent damage, but they're dead in space." Martinez allowed herself a small smile. "Target the next ship. Remember, we're not trying to hurt anyone. Just disable their ability to attack." The medical bay had become a strange mix of hospital and command center. Nurses tended to patients while the Neldari maintained their connection to the scanning arrays. Dr. Foster worked quickly to treat the aliens when they showed signs of exhaustion. "3 more ships in range," Thompson reported. "But they're hesitating. I don't think they understand what we're doing to them." The quantum arrays fired again and again. Each pulse was precisely targeted, using the same accuracy that normally guided surgeons in delicate operations. One by one, the Kryvax ships lost power, floating helplessly in space. But the effort was taking its toll. Several Neldari collapsed, their energy drained by the mental connection. Dr. Wright and his team rushed to help them while others took their place. "Last ship is moving away," Baker announced. "They're retreating to a safe distance." Martinez watched the disabled Kryvax vessels drift. Their life support systems still worked. The Mercy's attack had been careful to leave those untouched. It was a victory without a single life lost. "Dr. Wright," she called, "how are our Neldari friends?" "Exhausted but stable," he replied. "They've never tried anything like this before. Using medical equipment as a defense system. It's revolutionary." The ship's air suddenly interrupted. New contacts detected. Multiple ships entering the system. Everyone on the bridge tensed, expecting more Kryvax warships. But Thompson's face broke into a rare smile as she checked her readings. "It's the Earth Defense Fleet," she announced. "They picked up our distress signal. 3 destroyers and a cruiser, coming in fast." Martinez looked at her crew, humans and Neldari working side by side, using tools of healing to defend themselves. They had done something unprecedented. Won a battle without weapons, protected lives without taking them. "Send a message to the fleet," she ordered. "Tell them." She paused, considering her words carefully. "Tell them the hospital ship Mercy requests medical support for disabled enemy vessels. After all, that's what we're here for." The UNHS Mercy orbited the mining world of Centauri 6, its engines struggling after the desperate rescue mission. They had saved over 300 colonists from New Haven, but the effort had nearly destroyed the ship. Now they were trapped, with Kryvax warships closing in from all directions. "Status report," Commander Martinez called out, her voice steady despite their situation. "Engine power at 30%, Engineer Rodriguez reported. "We took too much damage running past those Kryvax ships. We're not going anywhere fast." Dr. Foster's voice came from the medical bay. "We've moved the critical patients to the intersections. But, Commander, we're running out of medical supplies. The colonists needed more than we expected." Officer Thompson stood at her security station, watching the enemy ships draw closer. 5 Kryvax vessels now. They're taking up attack positions around the planet. They know we can't run. Martinez looked at their tactical display. The mining world below them had been abandoned years ago, but its old facilities were still intact. Maybe they could use that. Thompson, what about the surface facilities? Can we move patients there? The old mining medical station is still pressurized. Thompson replied. It's not pretty, but it's better than nothing. We could evacuate the most critical cases if we need to. The ship shuddered as the first warning shot from a Kryvax vessel passed nearby. They weren't firing to hit. Not yet. They were showing their power, trying to force the Mercy to surrender. Ilara, who had been quietly watching from her position near the medical console, suddenly straightened. Commander, I have an idea. But we'll need help from all our people, even the injured ones. What kind of idea? Martins asked. The Kryvax think we're helpless because we have no weapons, Ilara said. But this ship has something just as powerful, medical scanning equipment. With our ability to connect with electronic systems, we might be able to turn your diagnostic tools into something unexpected. Dr. Wright, who had been listening, moved closer. The new quantum imaging arrays. They're powerful enough to see inside a patient at the cellular level. If we could modify them, we could use them to affect the Kryvax ship's systems. Ilara finished. Not to destroy. We are healers, after all, but to disable. Martinez felt a spark of hope. Rodriguez, can we power the medical systems at full strength? If we shut down everything but life support and gravity, yes, the engineer replied. But we'll be sitting ducks. We already are, Martins said. She turned to Ilara. Get your people ready. Dr. Wright, work with them. Officer Thompson, start the evacuation of critical patients to the surface, just in case this doesn't work. The next hour was a blur of activity. The Neldari gathered in the medical bay, connecting themselves to the ship's diagnostic systems. Dr. Wright and his team adjusted the quantum arrays, turning healing tools into a defensive network. Another warning shot rocked the ship. On the main screen, a message appeared from the Kryvax fleet commander, demanding their surrender. They're moving closer, Baker reported from his station. All 5 ships are in range now. Martinez watched as her medical crew and the Neldari worked together, their hands steady despite the danger. The massive imaging arrays hummed as they powered up, their energy readings climbing higher than they were ever designed to go. Remember, she told her crew, we're not here to fight. We're here to save lives. Everything we do to protect our patients. The Kryvax ships drew closer, their weapons fully charged. But inside the Mercy, something new was taking shape, a defense system built not from weapons, but from tools meant to heal. As Martinez watched her crew prepare for what was coming, she realized that sometimes the best defense wasn't a strong offense, but an unshakable dedication to saving lives. The UNHS Mercy had been hiding in the magnetic asteroid field for 6 hours when they picked up the distress signal. Lieutenant Baker detected it during a brief gap in the magnetic interference. It's from New Haven Colony, he said, his voice tight with concern. They're under attack. Kryvax ships are bombing their main settlement. Commander Martinez felt her chest tighten. New Haven was one of the smaller colonies with only about 5,000 people. Most of them were farmers and their families. How far? She asked. 2 hours at maximum speed, Baker replied. But Commander, the Kryvax ships hunting us are still out there. If we leave this asteroid field, they'll spot us immediately. Dr. Amanda Foster, the head of emergency medicine, spoke up from her station in the medical bay. We're the only hospital ship within range. There won't be any other medical help for at least 12 hours. Martinez looked at the tactical display. The 3 Kryvax warships were still circling the asteroid field like hungry sharks. Their sensors swept back and forth, searching for any sign of the Mercy. The colony has basic medical facilities, Dr. Wright added, but they can't handle a major attack. They'll be overwhelmed. Officer Thompson stepped forward. Commander, we're carrying crucial intelligence about Kravak's weaknesses. The refugees we rescued know things that could help win this war. If we're captured or destroyed, that information dies with us. The ship hummed quietly as Martinez considered their options. In the medical bay, hundreds of patients lay in their beds, depending on the ship's safety. The Neldari refugees watched with their large, worried eyes, knowing the danger better than anyone. Dr. Foster, Martinez called. How many casualties should we expect from a colony under bombardment? Hundreds, Foster replied without hesitation. Burns, crush injuries, radiation exposure. Many will die without immediate treatment. Engineer Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. Commander, if we go to help, we'll have to run the engines at full power. The strain could damage them. We might not be able to escape if things go wrong. Martinez stood up and walked to the main viewport. The asteroid spun slowly past, their magnetic field still hiding the hospital ship from enemy sensors. The Mercy was safe here, but safety wasn't why any of them had joined the medical service. Ilara, Martinez called to the Neldari medical officer. Your people know more about fighting the Kravaks than we do. What would you advise? The alien's blue skin seemed to pale slightly. The Kravaks, they target medical facilities first. They know that destroying healers breaks the spirit of their enemies. But sometimes, Commander, surviving isn't as important as doing what's right. Martinez nodded slowly. She turned to her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. Dr. Foster, prepare your teams for mass casualties. Engineer Rodriguez, give me everything the engines have. Officer Thompson, work with our Neldari friends to find ways to protect us without weapons. She sat back in her command chair. Lieutenant Baker, plot a course to New Haven Colony. Let's show the Kravaks what a hospital ship can do. The Mercy's engines hummed louder as Baker guided them out of the asteroid field. Behind them, sensor alarms immediately lit up as the Kravak ships detected their emergence. Multiple ships on intercept course, Thompson reported. They'll reach us before we get to the colony. Then we'll have to be clever, Martinez said. We're not warriors, but we're something just as important. We're healers. And right now, there are people who need healing. As the hospital ship raced toward the colony, its red crosses bright against the black of space, Martinez silently promised herself that she would find a way to save both her ship and the colonists. She had to. Because sometimes the bravest thing a person could do wasn't fighting, it was helping others, no matter the cost. The massive hospital ship shuddered as it entered the asteroid field. Lieutenant Baker's hands moved steadily over his controls, guiding the UNHS Mercy between the spinning rocks. Behind them, 3 Kravaks warships followed, their weapons charged but not firing. They're trying to force us into a corner, Martinez said, watching the tactical display. The enemy ships were spreading out, cutting off escape routes one by one. Commander, Baker called out. I found something. There's a dense cluster of magnetic asteroids ahead. The minerals in them mess with sensors. We might be able to hide there. Martinez looked at the medical status panel. Hundreds of beds were now filled with patients, both human wounded from the colonies and their Neldari refugees. Dr. Wright appeared on the screen, looking tired but focused. How are the patients, Doctor? Martinez asked. Stable for now. The Neldari are helping us understand their medical needs. But Commander, we can't take any heavy hits. Some of these people are barely holding on. Officer Thompson stepped up to Martinez's chair. The Kravaks know we're a hospital ship. They can see the red crosses. Under interstellar law, they're not supposed to fire on us. Laws didn't stop them from destroying Neldari hospitals, Ilara said quietly from her position near the medical console. The Neldari medical officer had insisted on staying on the bridge to help coordinate care for her people. The ship rocked suddenly. A small asteroid had clipped their shields, sending vibrations through the hull. In the medical bay, staff rushed to steady equipment and calm frightened patients. Baker, get us into that magnetic cluster, Martinez ordered. Engineering. I need all power to the shields and life support. Paul Rodriguez, the chief engineer, responded quickly. Redirecting power now. But Commander, the magnetic fields will affect our systems too. We'll be flying blind in there. Better blind than dead, Martinez said. She turned to Ilara. You said your people can interact with electronic systems. Can you help us navigate when our sensors fail? The Neldari's large eyes widened. Yes, but it's dangerous. The magnetic fields will make it harder. We would need several of our pilots working together. More dangerous than those warships catching us? Martinez asked. Ilara nodded slowly. I will gather those who are strong enough. The next few minutes were tense as Baker guided them deeper into the asteroid field. The Kryvac ships fell behind, unwilling to risk their larger warships in the dense cluster. Martinez watched as 3 Neldari were brought to the bridge, each looking weak but determined. The aliens formed a small circle, their hands linked. Their skin began to glow faintly as they connected with the ship's systems. Baker gasped as new information flowed into his navigation controls. I can see through the magnetic interference, he said with amazement. They're creating some kind of living sensor network. The Kryvac ships are still out there, Thompson reported. They're holding position at the edge of the field. Looks like they're calling for reinforcements. Martinez studied their situation. They were safer in the magnetic field, but they couldn't stay forever. The Neldari couldn't maintain their electronic link for long, and eventually the Kryvacs would find a way in. Rodriguez, she called to engineering. How are the engines holding up? The magnetic fields are straining them, but we're managing. These Neldari, they're somehow helping stabilize our power grid. Never seen anything like it. Martinez watched her crew work with their alien allies, everyone focused on keeping their patients safe. They were living up to everything a hospital ship should be. Protecting life, no matter the species, no matter the cost. Keep us moving, Baker, she ordered. We need to find a way out of this field that doesn't lead straight to those warships. We've got too many lives depending on us to fail now. As if in response to her words, a small asteroid tumbled past their view screen, its surface reflecting the distant starlight. Somewhere out there, their hunters waited. But in here, humans and Neldari worked together, turning a hospital ship's greatest weakness, its lack of weapons, into a different kind of strength. The UNHS Mercy dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a gentle shudder. They had been running medical support missions for 3 weeks, treating wounded from the outer colonies. Commander Martinez hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a time since the war began. Multiple ships detected at the edge of our scanner range, Lieutenant Baker reported from his station, reading heavy damage to one vessel. The others appeared to be debris. Dr. Wright looked up from his medical console. Life signs. Faint, but present, Baker said. The signatures, they're not human, Commander. Martinez frowned. They were deep in human space, far from any known alien territories. Show me. The main screen displayed a small ship, its hull torn open in several places. It was clearly not of human design, with smooth organic curves unlike anything in Earth's fleet. Pieces of other ships floated nearby, all showing signs of weapons fire. It's a distress signal, Baker said. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Security Officer Kelly Thompson stepped forward. Commander, this could be a trap. The Kryvacs are known for their deception tactics. Those aren't Kryvac ships, Dr. Wright pointed out. The design is completely different, and there are injured aboard. Martinez studied the image. The ship's wounds weren't fresh. This wasn't an ambush in progress, and something about the debris pattern suggested a running fight, not a staged scene. Dr. Wright, prepare your trauma teams, she ordered. Officer Thompson, I want security teams ready, but no visible weapons when we make contact. We're still a hospital ship. The rescue operation moved quickly. The Mercy shuttles brought in 23 aliens, all injured to varying degrees. They were tall, slender beings with pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes. Their medical officer, who introduced herself as Ilara, spoke perfect English. "We are the Neldari," she explained to Martinez and Wright in the medical bay. "We've been running from the Kryvax for weeks. They're systematically destroying our colonies, just as they're now attacking yours." Dr. Wright worked as they talked, his hand steady as he treated a wound on another Neldari's arm. Their biology is fascinating. Their cellular structure allows for much faster healing than humans, but they're highly sensitive to certain types of radiation. "The Kryvax use this against us," Ilara said quietly. "Their weapons are designed to cause maximum pain to our people. We've been trying to reach Earth space for months. We have information that could help you fight them." Martinez watched as her medical teams worked seamlessly with their alien patients. The Neldari were clearly terrified, but they relaxed visibly when they realized they were being treated with care and respect. Officer Thompson pulled Martinez aside. "Commander, the debris field analysis is complete. Those were Kryvax pursuit ships that were destroyed. Somehow these refugees managed to fight off 3 military vessels." "How?" Martinez asked, turning to Ilara. The Neldari medical officer's large eyes seemed to shimmer. "We have abilities that the Kryvax don't understand. We can interact with electronic systems in ways that most species cannot. It's how we escaped them, but the effort nearly killed our pilots." Before Martinez could respond, the ship's AI sounded an alert. "Multiple ships entering the system. Kryvax signatures detected." "They followed us," Ilara said, her voice filled with despair. "They always follow us." Martinez looked at her crew. The doctors still treating patients, the nurses monitoring vital signs, the security teams standing ready but careful to appear non-threatening. She thought about the information these refugees carried, information that could save human lives. "No one is dying on my ship today," she said firmly. "Dr. Wright, get your patients secured for possible evasive action." Officer Thompson helped the Neldari to the secure medical wards. "Lieutenant Baker, plot us a course through the asteroid field at the edge of the system." As her crew moved to their tasks, Martinez watched the approaching Kryvax ships on her screen. The Mercy was about to be hunted, but she had something no other ship in the fleet had: allies who understood their enemy, and a crew dedicated to preserving life at all costs. She just hoped it would be enough. Commander Lisa Martinez stood at the viewing window of her new command, watching the stars drift by. The massive white hull of the UNHS Mercy stretched out before her, its red crosses clearly visible against the stark surface. The ship was beautiful, she had to admit that much, but it wasn't what she wanted. She ran her hand through her short brown hair and sighed. After 15 years of commanding warships, being assigned to a hospital ship felt wrong. Her last ship, the UNS Guardian, had been a proper warship with rail guns and missile tubes. The Mercy didn't even have point defense weapons. "Commander, the medical supplies from Station 9 have been loaded," Lieutenant Christopher Baker said from behind her. "Dr. Wright wants to know if you'll join the senior staff for dinner." Martinez turned to face her navigation officer. Baker was young, probably too young to remember the first alien contact 20 years ago. His eager expression reminded her of herself when she'd first joined the fleet. "Tell Dr. Wright I'll be there," she said. She needed to at least try to connect with her new crew. The walk to the officers' mess took her through the medical deck. The pristine white corridors were filled with medical personnel in their pale blue uniforms. They all moved with purpose, checking equipment and running drills. A group of nurses was practicing emergency protocols, rushing a dummy on a floating stretcher into one of the trauma rooms. The ship's massive medical bay could handle over 1,000 patients at once. Its surgical suites were the most advanced in the fleet, and its research facilities rivaled those of Earth's best hospitals. But all Martinez could think about was how vulnerable it all was. The officers' mess was quieter than she expected. Dr. Daniel Wright, the chief medical officer, stood up when she entered. He was a tall man with kind eyes and graying hair at his temples. "Commander," "Thank you for joining us," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "We thought it was time we got to know each other better." Kelly Thompson, the security officer, nodded from her seat. She was a compact woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "The crew's been curious about you, Commander. It's not often we get a warship captain assigned to us." Martinez sat down, noting the careful way they watched her. "I'm sure you're wondering why I'm here." "The thought had crossed our minds," Dr. Wright said with a slight smile. "Your record in the Guardian is impressive. 3 engagements with pirates, 2 first contact scenarios, and a successful evacuation of the Europa colony. And now I'm commanding a ship that can't fight back," Martine said, then immediately regretted her words. But Dr. Wright didn't seem offended. "Can't fight back. Commander, we fight death every day. Our weapons are scalpels and medications, but our battles are just as important as any warships." Before Martinez could respond, the ship's AI chimed in. "Senior staff to the bridge. Priority message from Fleet Command." The calm voice didn't sound alarmed, but Martinez was already moving. The others followed close behind as she strode through the corridors. The bridge was smaller than her previous command, focused more on coordination than combat. The message was waiting on the main screen. As Martinez read it, she felt her stomach tighten. The Kryvax Empire, a species humanity had been watching carefully for years, had attacked 3 human colonies without warning. Earth was at war. "We're being redirected to the Centauri sector," Martinez announced to her senior staff. "All nearby ships are being mobilized. The Mercy will provide medical support to the defense fleet." She looked at her new crew, seeing determination replace their earlier uncertainty. Maybe Dr. Wright was right. Maybe there were different ways to fight a war. "Prepare the medical bays," she ordered. "Lieutenant Baker, plot our course. We have wounded waiting for us." As her crew moved to their stations, Martinez realized something. The Mercy might not have weapons, but it had a different kind of strength, and in the coming war, that strength might be more important than all the rail guns in the fleet.